Hey everybody, Zach here with Annabella Fence. Hey, this past weekend I was going through some old footage and realized I had a video film from a couple years ago when we first started using the patented iFence system that I never uploaded. We filmed it to be an instructional video for our guys, like a training video, but I never did put it out. And I after watching, I think you guys would find some benefit too. So I'm going to upload it live for you guys to see, just so you guys can see how an aluminum fence goes together just in general, and also our fence as well. I will forewarn you, it's one of the first videos I've ever filmed, so it's a little choppy, but it is very, very informative if you can stick through it. It's kind of lengthy as well, but I hope you guys enjoy it, and here it is. So PA1 call was out here. Pretty much the only thing we have is this water line, which I'm going to check with the customer, but I assume it goes in the front of the house there. Other than that, everything's pretty much clear open. Next thing we're going to do is set up our first string line. So just like any other layout, there's nothing special about aluminum except the spacing's different. Generally our aluminum is on 6-foot centers rather than 8 like the vinyl and the wood. But we'll set up our string line first and then we'll start building. So the constraints on this job is the back corner. So we're going to start from the back corner and maximize the space we can get down into here. The other constraint is this gas line. We have to stay 24 inches off of this gas line. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll start driving. Okay, so we got our string line all set up. Like I said, you want to start at the constraining sides and work your way out from that. So we came out to where the customer wanted to be there, and then the other constraining side, you can't see it from here, but was from there. So we basically are going to do this L first, and then we'll build off of it, starting in that corner behind the shed. So the next thing we need to do is we need to stage our iPost. So there's two different types of iPost. This is our standard iPost. Looks like an I, hence the name iPost. This is what the gates and also the lines get. The difference is on the corner post, we use an angled iPost. And the reason is so it can accept the rails on both sides. So can never put a corner post on, or a line or a gate post, hence the iPost, on a corner, or you'll never be able to build the fence. But normally what I do is I leave these on the truck and we just go around at the end and put these out. I am going to take one with me now though, just because we're going to start in a far corner. Actually, I'll take two with me. And just like anything else, normally set the post on the inside of the fence line. It's just easier to line everything up usually. Very rarely do we build on the outside of the string line. So we're going to go ahead and set up our driver. This uses a little bit of a different style bit than what we normally use. It's kind of a combination of a chain link and a postmaster bit. So we're going to use the 2 3/8 collars, but there's a special hammer in here that this is it here. It doesn't have the cutout to sit down on the chain link. This just hits a little bit harder, so that's why we use it. See the difference here. This one's cut out for 2 3/8 pipe to sit down inside. This one is just hammer. You can use this on the chain link, but it smashes the top of the post up pretty bad, and it'll actually get stuck sometimes. So on the chain link, we normally use the actual chain link fittings. And then on our big driver, I don't have it here. Very rarely do we actually bring it on an aluminum sight, just because the aluminum drive is generally pretty easy. We just use the 2 3/8 collar. So the other thing you'll need is you'll need your spacer. Just talk to your supervisor or foreman to make sure you got the right spacer. And we just run this like everything else. So we're going to go ahead and grab our level and stuff, and we'll go up there and start driving. Okay, so our post, we want in the ground 3.5 feet and sticking out 3.5 feet, typically. But ask your supervisor first. But to get that, so you want this with the plunger flush. So we have 4 inches right there. So 42 inches minus 4 puts us at 38 inches. What we're going to do is we're going to measure from the ground to the bottom of this collar at 38 inches. And that'll set our height for the first one. And then we're going to use the plumb bob for the rest. So we start with the angled one on the corner. This is the only spot in the whole fence where an angled one's going to go on the corner. If you use this on a line post, it also won't go in either. So you can't mix up your corners with your lines. But as far as driving these, it's pretty much as typical of everything else. These can be a little bit tricky though, just because they're so a little bit flimsy, getting started at least. The corners. I'm going to keep it about 1/8 of an inch is what I normally do off the line. And then just maintain that the whole way down through. So when you take your measurement, you want to make sure that the driver's sitting level, and then see we're right at 38. That puts us right at 42 to the top of the post, because the post is up in there 4 inches, and we'll set our plumb bob to this height. Just like everything else, when we set the plumb bob, normally put the clasp on first. Then hold this up. See which link you need to be on.
it should be touching the ground whenever it's plumbed. So we need to go down one link. That's good there. And this extra chain, I normally just do something like this with it. You just got to be careful with your throttle cable, because if you touch that throttle cable, it kind of goes crazy. So that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is, just like everything else, we got our spacer. We're going to put our spacer touching the post, and the next one will be touching the post. Now this is very important on the line post. This has to go in line with the fence so the rail can sit in here. If you build it like this, you can't put the fence together because there's nowhere for the rail to go. The opening of the eye has to be facing the fence line.
Okay, so now we're roughly 3 sections up from the corner. So what we're gonna do first is sight this in across the front of the garage. So we're gonna set a post down here generally where we're at. It's a lot easier to do this if you have a helper, but we don't have a helper today. So I'm just gonna stand and hold this out and try and set it in off the corner of the garage. And then I'm gonna lay this down. And then what I'm gonna do is go down in the garage door and just sight across and try and see that post. So we are actually about 2 inches out. I can see a leaf underground where we're at, so I'm gonna use that leaf as our start. So we'll set this post where this leaf is, and then just double check it. So if you sight down this garage where everything comes together, you can see we're pretty much dead center of that. We are dead center of that angle. So that's where the corner of this trim is. So this trim is 1 inch thick, and we need to be back 24 inches off of this gas line. So we'll set this at 24 inches. We'll just use this as our measurement. So we'll set this at 24 on that bracket. And that puts us at 35 on the house plus 6. So we're going to be 36 inches off of the corner of that. Now we want to be aware of this customer's plant here. So probably what we're going to do is go right behind that plant. Because if we were to come right there where that seam is, it's going to kill this plant. So we're going to come back in here. So we'll go with 46 plus an inch is 47 inches. So we're going to go 47. The end of the tape will be where our corner is. And we just set something down to mark that. So I'm just going to use my headphone case. So we want the corner right up against that headphone case. And then we'll do the math, the space in this other. So we'll set the corner first, measure, and then we'll do our math. And on that side, we're going to go right where the paint is. This corner's gonna get a lot easier than the first one just because we changed our throttle cable out. Remember, where fence line has to come into here and into here, so make sure you have the angle going the right way.
So now we got the corner inch. We got to figure out what our math is for the last couple sections. So we have 14.5 exactly. That's going to put us just under 5 foot. We're like 5'2", I believe. Or no, 4'10", I think. 14.5. I think we're 4'10". So we'll just set our marker up at 4'10". To do the measurement, so you take your overall measurement, we have 14.6 divided by 6 would give us just over 2. Be like 2.3. So that means we round up to 3 sections. So we take 14.6 again divided by 3. That gave us 4.83. So that's 4 foot. That's 4.83 feet. You need to convert that 0.83 into inches. So you just take 0.83 times 12. That comes out to 9.96. So that's how we came up with the 4 foot 10 inches. We just rounded to 9.96 up to 10 inches. So this line is completely done. As far as the post being driven in. So now we're going to run this front line, and then I'll show you how to put the fence together. We're not going to make the back line part of the video just because this will get the gist of everything. So what we're going to do as far as our string line goes, there's probably a footer under this garage. So we're going to probe first to see. Because if we go down like 2 foot and we hit the footer, then we're in trouble. We're going to have to pull the post back out. So we're going to use a probe to see if we can get down as deep as we need to get. If we can, we'll go ahead and drive it. But if not, we'll have to dig down and then use a core drill to get through the footer. And then depending on how far we have to dig, we'll either set it in concrete or we'll just drive it. But if we do set it in concrete, we still set the iPost just because the iPost is very strong and it allows the panel to be changed very easily. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the probe, and then we'll see what we're going to do with this. I think we're only down about 2 foot. We are. So we hit the footer at 2 foot, so I think we'll pull this out and measure it. Yeah, so what we're going to have to do is dig down to the foundation. We'll use our core drill. Drill through, and then we can drop our post the rest of the way. So on this one here, we're gonna have to set this one in concrete just because it's like so shallow. We really built out the hole a lot to make it strong. So we're still gonna set it in the iPost. We just hit the footer. There was a French drain line. There's just too much going on here to drive our post down on the ground. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna do this one tomorrow just because I don't have concrete with me. We're gonna run a string line and we'll build the rest of the fence. So to run this string line, I'm just continuing the same line. I'm gonna go around this iPost and use this as a pin and just go up to the post hole diggers and use them as a pin up there. So it's hard to tell in the picture. I don't know if you remember our PA1 marks down there. You can see there's a dip. There's two ways to go about water lines that you're unsure of, or any utility really. If you're really trained, you can see them. So this water line's coming in right here. Just there's a dip right here. It's coming in about right under where the camera is there. We're spanning out here. But originally the gate was supposed to go here, but we'd be right on top of that water line. So we had to go one more section. So there's two ways to go about it. If you're unsure until you get skilled, the best way to go about it is to hand dig down, and then we can set that iPost in concrete. But like I said, if you know for sure that the water line's in here, and I know for sure the water line's in here, then we can just go ahead and drive it. I am still running real careful. If you hit something like a water line or really even a drain line, you can feel the driver start bouncing, especially if you're running real easy. So that's the key, is just run it real easy. But you also, like I said, you need to be aware. So if you're unsure, you should dig down by hand and set it in concrete. So now we're into the gate. So the gate's obviously different spacing. On vinyl and aluminum, gate spacing is real critical, like a 1/4 inch can screw you up. So there's two ways to do it. One is you can run the manual math. We have a video on that. The other way is just use the gate spacer that we have for the particular gate size. So these are gonna be, I think, 4-foot gates. So I'm just gonna grab the gate spacer off the truck. Basically what it is we already have the math figured out for however wide of a gate it is. So we got our gate spacer out. the gate posts, the gate eye posts at least, are the same. The only thing that's different about a gate is the hinge side has a different post cover. The aluminum piece, or the black aluminum piece, these are all aluminum, but the black aluminum piece is a little bit thicker on the hinge side. Okay, so that's the gate post. For these last three sections, it's basically the same as the corner on the other side. So we're gonna take an overall measurement and then divide it by 6 and then figure out where we're at. Should only be 3 sections. So we're at 13.4. That's gonna put us at, I think, just over 4'3", I think. So we'll take 13.25 feet, 13.25 feet, 4 inches is a quarter of a foot, divided by, I know it's 3 sections, so we're just going to divide by 3. That puts us at 4.416. So 0.416 times 12. So 4 foot 5 inches is what the spacing is going to be. Just put our earbuds down again. You can use anything, like I said. 4 foot 5. Okay, so this here, we got it dug down as far as we could go. We could only get down like 18 inches and we actually hit the French drain pipe. So I'm going to give the customer 2 options. There's 2 ways to address this. In my opinion, the best way would be to, as much as we don't like doing this, is actually anchor the post to the brick itself. The reason I think that's the best solution in this situation is we only have 18 feet or 18 inches down there. And if we were to concrete this, water is more than likely going to get under that slug and push that fence up out of the ground over time and make the fence all wonky on this post. So, but I'm going to give the customer both options. The downside and the reason we don't really like to tie into a house is it's just another place for water to get in. But we do use silicone and stuff if the time does come. But that's basically the two options in a case like this. The bare minimum, ideally, for a dug and concreted post is 30 inches. Ideally, you want to get down to 38 inches, but the bare minimum is 30. Anything less than that, it's just real likely to freeze and frost heave. Okay, so we got all the posts in. The next step, we have to cut our post to length. The post covers themselves, the black post. These posts are too length. They as long as they're close to 3.5 feet. But what we're looking for is we want to find any high or low spots. This job site here flows pretty nice. There's really only one post here that might be a little wonky, and it's this one right here. It's maybe an inch low. So what we'll do is we have a measurement we use to start with, and then we're going to adapt out of that. I'm not going to give the measurement in this video just because all of the aluminum fences come with different measurements, and it can be really confusing, and you can actually ruin the post. But the base, what we're doing is we're going to cut them all the same, except for that one post. We're going to cut it an inch longer just to make it flow nice. And with experience, you'll be able to pick up with where these need to be. Until you get the experience, always consult with your team lead. They'll tell you what posts need to be long, and they'll also tell you what the run of the line post needs to be cut at. So, but I'm going to go ahead and cut these. So there's a couple ways we cut them. If they're loose, you can cut them individually. You can cut them in bulk, like run through these all with a big circular saw, but I don't have that many here, so I'm going to just cut these all with a bandsaw individually, these loose ones. And when they're bundled like this, leave the bundle closed, just make sure everything's squared up, and you can actually just cut down through all of them all at one time with the bandsaw. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're just going to measure these. One other thing I wanted to mention. So we have line posts, corner posts, end posts. They're normally marked on the bottom. There's also a gate post on an aluminum, and the reason is, if you can see in this camera, all the corner line and everything is this thickness here. It's roughly about 1/8 of an inch. Maybe it's a 16th, I forget. The 16th of an inch. The gate posts are actually 1/8 of an inch, so they're a little bit more bulky. So when they're set in concrete, they're a lot more stronger, is the main reason that why they're thicker. But we actually use that thickness as well. When we cut our post, let's say our standard measurement, and I'm going to go way wild, just say our standard measurement is 14 inches. We would actually add an extra 12 inches to our gate post of whatever that is, just to get it down on the ground to help that ground hold that. And it depends on ground conditions as well. A lot of times you can't get it in the ground that far, so you just got to kind of dial it in by ear. After you've driven, you kind of have an idea what the ground conditions are here. So this one here, I'm going to add 10 inches over. You can cut 2 at a time with this saw. So when you put the post on, one side has screw holes and one side doesn't. Generally, we keep the screw holes in. Now the end posts and the corner posts are only going to have screw holes on one side, so you can't dictate them, but usually we keep the screw holes in. The idea is the finished part of the fence goes out. That's, unless the customer dictates something else, that's how we always put them on. Okay, so whenever you cut these, you want to stand them up on end like this. Then open up one end of the bag. Just be real careful. You want to not scratch that post that's in there. And you want to take this corner off. This end, I mean, and line these all up. Then you'll take your measurement, measure down from that hole. Then I normally measure like every third. You can measure all of them really. The reason is so you start cutting, you can make sure you're not cutting crooked. Because if you start cutting crooked, let's say you start at 14 inches here, you start cutting crooked, you could end up clear up at 8 and you could be sticking way out of the ground. So you want to make sure that you have some way on there where you can keep track and make sure you're keeping it nice and square. As you're going, you got to push these out. If not, your saw will hit and you can't clear. So you can see these aren't exactly straight, but they're in the same like half-inch gap. That doesn't have to be straight. You just don't want to be like way off where you're like have a, like for instance on these ones we're running I think 7 inches. You don't want to be 7 here and have like a little 2-inch gap here, or your post, you'll see when on the next step your post can be sticking out of the ground. So the next step is we're going to set these all in place, which we started setting some of them in place, and then I'll show you the next step. So with these big bundles, you can actually grab most of the bundle and go with it. I already have a couple of these set just because they were either close or that's that low one way up there. But you just go around, set them. Like I said, the screws go in if you have a choice. If for some reason these don't slide on here and they're all beat up from the hammer, you can just cut it off with your bandsaw, but all these are drove about perfectly, really. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is set these panels in. There's a couple things, especially working on a hill like this, that you need to be aware of. So I'll show you how to put them in first. So to put them in, it's pretty easy. You always want to work from the bottom of the hill up, but you just line up the downhill side and pick up this side, pick up the post, and these just drop right in. Now you'll notice this is sticking up in the air. The reason is it's actually hitting the aluminum post inside. So what we'll have to do is come through and trim these off. And I'm going to show you up close. This only happens on really goofy corners, like more or less than 90 degrees, or extreme angles like this. So you can see how this is hitting the aluminum I-beam. And down here, it's probably hitting the top, but it's hard to tell. But generally, if you trim the upper side, you can fix this. So I'll show you how to do that. We actually got to open up this. These are called bird mouths. We're gonna have to open this up also. So the first thing you need to do is trim this, and I'm gonna just go get the tool. So to take care of this, first need to take care of where it's hitting in here. So we're just gonna cut this on like a 45, just enough to get that angle off of there. Then we have to, the cover's not in there now, but you can see how this is pretty much sitting on the ground. I could go a little more actually. Actually, this whole thing needs cut. Just like that. So that's pretty good there. So this bird mouth needs opened up. So you want to try and keep this as straight to the factory as possible. What I normally do is cut the first side, then slide the other side down right into it. And you'll cut both sides exactly the same if you do that. And then now this post cover will go on. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's messed up, because you guys should get to start at the bottom of the hill and work your way up. But I did it this way just to show you. So you can see how this is really gapped out at the top. It's actually pushing on this. So what I'm going to have to do is start down there, open this one up, and then work my way up the hill. So that's what I'm going to do. This is only on the hills you really got to mess around with these. This is why you got to start at the bottom and work your way up, because you'll be fighting it the whole way. So I'm just going to leave this sitting here for now. And usually the best way to tell is take this clear off and just see if this will sit. You want it like maybe 2 inches off the ground. So that one there is not too bad. It's because we're almost down to level. Just going to cut a little bit off and we should be good. That's good. You want it about 2 inches. We're going to open up this bird mouth too. So that one will be good. We got to go up and do the next section. You can see how there's enough room there. Bring you in closer, just for that post cover to clear. See how we got a little gap. We got to do this one as well. Even though we did the top, we still got to do the bottom, because the bottom, it's actually this one here, is messed up. When it goes down and it starts pushing out, that's how you know. Like I said, you want to start at the bottom of the hill and work your way up. See how it's pushing out at the top now? So, best way, like I said, is take the post cover clear off. And you just want the clearance in there first. So this one here is a little long too. We're gonna have to cut it. I screwed this one up. I'm gonna move this one to another section. It's all scratched. We got a short section up here. In general too, I always start on these goofy corners and steep angles. That way if you mess something up, you can take it to a shorter section normally. That looks pretty good there. That'll work. The top normally doesn't matter. If the top's screwed up, it's normally just a bird mouth, just because there's so much room in these posts. Actually, I need to do this one too. I don't think I did this one. So now I'm going to show you what happens when you get to an uneven corner. Okay, so here we need to cut the section down. You can see how we have about a 3.5 inch gap here. And then up here, we're going to have roughly about a 2.5 inch, maybe 2. If this was in the back corner of a lot or something, this would honestly be all right. But because this is right out on the road, we want to make this as symmetrical as possible. So I'll show you the easiest way to do that. First thing you want to do is take the panel completely out and set it on the ground. Just like that. And then we're going to take a measurement, just like on our vinyl and our wood. You always measure on the bottom. Take a measurement bottom to bottom, about 60 inches even. And then we're going to add 1.5 inches to that. So we're going to go 61.5. So we want to go 61.5. Which should put us right here. And now we want to take a note of how far we are from here to this picket. So we have 4.5 down here. Down here we're going to have 3. So we need to come this way 3/4 inch. That's 1/2 inch. So if we come down this way 3/4 inch, that'll leave us with 3.5 down here, and then 3.5 up here as well. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so like I mentioned, the best way to cut this is a circular saw with the blade turned backwards. 6.5 inch works better. That way you can fit down between these rails. So normally cut the middle rail first. Out on the end, it doesn't really matter. But when we get down in the middle, the blade will fit down in between the rails and it's a lot easier to manage. I think our overall measurement was 61.5. So normally you measure each rail, but I can just see how close we are to the rail on this one. Like I said, up here you want to cut the middle rail first. The next thing we need to do is notch these, put the bird mouths on. So depending on the brand of notchers, what I normally do is hold these up here on a bird mouth and then put a mark on there. That way you don't have to measure these and mark them out. And then we'll just hold this up there. On the double notch, you'll see there's two on one side and 3 on the other. I cut the double first and just put the blade right above that double. And that's like the perfect height. Then on the other one, we just kind of measure across from that one. do that to all 3, or all 6, I guess, on this one. Hold it right above the double side. Let's show you what I'm talking about here. So if you come in here, see how there's a 2 here and 3 on this side? You hold it right above the double. Then on the other side, once you cut that, it's actually just below the triple. The middle one, you hold it just below the middle one, and it'll be perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this with all these. We'll put this back in there. Okay, so they're all cut. We'll go ahead and set this in. And we may have to cut the upper end because we're going up such a steep hill. But that is the same way you would cut any section. Put the bottom in first. And we're actually good here, so we're good. Okay, so carry back some normal sections and show you how they go, and you don't have to cut them or anything. Now just put these in as normal. No cutting or anything on these. If you lay these down, just let them maxed out like that, and they'll just sit there. Put a normal one in. Sometimes the corner post can be a little tricky just because the iPost is in there. There we go. Then this is just pick this up. Put that in there, and then you can see it's perfect. Should have a, just like that. You always want to work, you're on a flat from one end to the other. You don't want to just randomly put these in or you'll be fighting yourself. Then as you go down, you saw how this was popping out. They'll start holding themselves in there. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention is, I kind of assumed you knew this, but I guess I need to bring it up. All these posts are just sitting on the ground. When you take your measurement for your panel at the bottom, the only exception to this is your gate post, because you cut that generally 10 to 12 inches longer than everything else, is actually sitting way up in the air. So if you were to measure this like this, the panel is going to be way too long. So what you have to do is you have to drop this down where the reveal on this particular fence is 5 inches, matches over here. So we need to drop this down to where the hole in here is 5 inches off the ground on this particular fence. Like I said, every fence is different. So what we use to do that is just our Mr. Fence protector and a hammer. Sometimes you have to use a sledgehammer to do this. Maybe the case here. So we're using a big hammer to drop these. Maybe. Sometimes the ground's just so firm they won't go. And also on the gate, the flat spot should be facing in. So that's good right there. We're the same as that one. One thing I forgot to mention up to this point too. So all the posts are self-explanatory except for the gate. So technically the gate and the latch side looks the same except for that thickness like I mentioned. The thick post always goes on your hinge side, and you're always hinged on the low side going downhill. So this particular gate is going to swing like this. So our gate post, the thick post, is on this side. Now that we have this driven down where it matches that side, now we'll just take our measurement and then add a 1.5 inches, just like everything else, and then we'll be good to go. So we have 52 1/4 here. We'll have 53 3/4 and notch it, and then we're just going ahead like we just did on the other panels. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these panels in, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so we talked to the customer about this. What we're gonna do is secure to the wall, and just mention the pros and cons of each, and that's what he agreed to do also. Like I said, that was my choice as well. So we're gonna sight that in. There's 2 ways to go about this. One, you can run the string line and just barely be at the post to keep it nice and straight, or you can just go down the post and sight this in. I actually already did this, but there's a mark on the brick where this post is gonna go, which is right here. What you can do to be sure, if you have a helper, is you can actually take your post and put it on that mark. You can do this by yourself too if the ground's relatively level, and then just sight down into that. Whoop. So you can see we're sliding right down into it. And it could probably come out. Actually, no, it's perfect. So we're going to go right on that line. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this post off for our reveal on the bottom and just set it on the ground, since it's not going in the concrete or anything. So each job is different. On this particular one, we're going to go with 3 inches. Actually, I'm going to go with 4 inches and beat this down on the ground a little bit first. So we're going to cut this at 4 inches. Then I'll show you what to do next. I'm going to go ahead and cut this with our bandsaw. Now what we're going to do is set this on the ground. Like I said, I'm going to go down in about 1 inch. And we're going to run a 3/8 concrete anchor in the top and bottom holes. You need enough to make the strength, but you want to make as least amount of holes in the house as possible, which is why we're going with these heavy anchors. So I'm going to hold this up here where that line is and kind of see where we need to put the tap con at. You want to be either in the center of the brick or in the center of the mortar. So on both of them, we're going to be dead center. So I'm going to pre-drill through the aluminum with just a normal metal bit. So I actually got this one off a little bit. I'm going to re-drill this one. No, we can make that work. So we're going to put this in here, set it down on the ground 1 inch. It's about 1 inch there. We're going to go ahead and pre-drill these with our hammer drill. Not pre-drill, but drill them, I mean. Just the bottom one. We'll put the bottom one in. Now you want to put silicone on this before you put it in, just for so that there's no water damage inside the house. I normally just put this right in the hole. We always put these in by hand. I actually take this back up. You want this tight on the wall, and I need to pull some dirt out. So we'll get this just kind of snugged up, and then we're going to level this up. Plumb this up, I mean. Then we'll go ahead and drill the top. I get the wrong drill. Yes, so before you put this one on, you want to put the cap on first and pull against the cap. The reason is once this is tight, you won't be able to get the cap in there. So snug these bolts up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put the panel in from this one and feed into that one. Because this side is locked in now. Okay, sorry I got this halfway in here, but it's just typical. You feed into the post on the wall first. You pick this one up, which is going to be a little bit of a battle because it's so high and we're going downhill. There we go. So that one's in there. And I like to keep these kind of long. I mean, it's about 1/4 of an inch long to really push against that wall. So now all the panels are in. The next thing we're going to do is just similar to like all of our other fences. You can see there, this grade here is pretty consistent, but there's a couple spots where it's kind of choppy. Mainly down here in this corner and then halfway up. And then we also need to drop the whole fence line down 2 feet. We use that using the same tool we just used on the gate post, is this Mr. Fence protector for aluminum. So we're just going to go around and dial this in just like they did on the vinyl. So I'll set you up here just so you can kind of watch. And then usually what I do is start with the most out of spot place, but like I said, on this fence it's not too bad, so I'm going to get them down all pretty close and then we'll start dialing it in. And as far as gap under the fence, I always ask the customer what they want. This customer wants it pretty tight. You got to kind of go back and forth between all these, or if not, your fence will fall out, actually, because you'll throw your geometry off going uphill. So we're just going to kind of down close to where the customer wants it, and then we'll dial it in from there. So we get them all down to grade. Now I'm just going to visually look. So I got 2 high posts. We're just going to knock them down where they're even. Or not even, but blends nice. Pretty good there. So that's it. The next thing we need to do is usually we confirm with the customer about the gap under the fence, but I had already done that on a different part of this fence, so I know exactly where to set this at. But you would confirm with the customer if they're home to make sure that the gap under the fence is good with them. Then the next step is we're going to lock them in with putting screws. So the screw in the bottom is going to go through the iPost, and that's what's going to lock in your height. We'll put 2 other screws up here, or 4 other screws up here. So there's going to be 6 screws total on every post except for the end post and the gate post. And then the caps, and then that's pretty much it. We do go around and touch up any bad spots, but I'll show you how to do all that here in a little while. So when it comes to dialing in the gate, you need to confirm that your rail measurement is on the same on both sides. So on this one on the bottom, we have 4.5 inches. On this one on the bottom, we have 4 3/8. So this one is a 1/8 of an inch low, which is no big deal. We can just use it in our calculation. So grab a level. You want to hold it on just level across, generally on the lowest post. I mean, you can see we're out that far. So we're going to hold it level, and then we'll mark this on the same spots. We're going to mark it on the bottom, and we'll take a measurement here. So we can generally rack the gates 2.5 inches. Anything more than that, then you just can't rack them any more than that. So we're at 1.5 inches. Actually, it's 1 5/8 inches, which puts us at 1.5 inches because this one's low to begin with. So we can easily rack this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dial both of these in where they need to be. Now let's say that this one, there's like a 6-inch gap here. We can only pull, like I said, 2.5 inches out. So we have to leave this one high 4.5 inches, or 3.5 inches that would be. So we'll set this one up 3.5 inches, drop this one as low as we can, and then we can set the gate on the hinge side with the rails and then rack into it, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to hanging the gate. But that's not the case here. Like I said, we're just gonna dial these both down where they need to be, and then we can rack into it. So that's what we're gonna do. On the gate post itself, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to use a big hammer. Almost there. It's pretty good there. Yeah, that's good. 2 inches there. So we're going to do the same thing here. Drop this down to 2 inches. Now this one will go real easy because it's just floating there. All your weight hangs on your hinge post. That's why we make these an extra foot. It makes this a lot more stiffer. That's pretty good there. 2 inches there as well. Then we're just going to visually blend in from here to the wall. And that's how you set the grade for a gate. That's pretty good there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to lock everything in with our screws, and then we'll set the gate. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now what we need to do is we got to put the screws in and lock in the height. So depending on when you watch this video, it depends on how we organize these, but currently we buy everything in job lots. So this is our hinges, or our latches, I mean, for the gates. And then these are our caps. And then inside these caps is the screws. So we normally just go through, open up a bunch of these, just don't lose the caps, which is pretty easy to do, believe it or not. There'll be more screws in there than you need for the project, just because they have everything set up for line posts, and you have a bunch of end posts and gate posts. So there's definitely going to be more screws than what you need for the project. But we just go through and dump a bunch of these in our bag, and then just like I was talking earlier, efficiency is key. So you want to do everything that you can at the same time. So you don't want to get to everything and have to open these up. Just go ahead and just do it all now. You can do it with the trash and everything at one time. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and then I'll show you how to set the height and put the screws in. Okay, so as far as the screws, the top two, if you look down in here, the iPost doesn't come up this far. So we don't have to do anything, worry about breaking any bits or anything. The screws we use are self-tappers, but the bottom one is gonna run through that iPost. So we actually need to drill, and sometimes you have to drill on an angle. If you look in there, you can see the iPost.
Sometimes you can see the edge. You want to definitely get the screw through the iPost, so you might have to drill on a little bit of an angle. So we're going to pre-drill the bottom with an 1/8 inch bit and then run the screw in after it. It's real critical that we use an 1/8 inch bit. Any smaller, the self-tapper will break, and any bigger, it won't grab. So the 1/8 inch is the size we need to use. As far as the post, there's 3 basic different posts. So we have our end/gate post, which has 3 screws. So this is a gate, this is an end. We have our line post, which has 6 screws. They're on the inside, right side by side. And then our corner post has 6 screws as well on the outside to tie all the rails together. So the basic concept is, you can kind of see here, this moves. When we put the screws in, we're gonna put the top in first. We're gonna pull these in tight, so everything's nice and tight. And then same way we'll put the screw in, we're gonna pull this one in tight, and we're just gonna constantly pull this thing in tight. We're gonna put screws in everything except for the end post that are around the gate. The reason is we have to plumb these up. So we do have a level with us. We generally take a preliminary level. We're pretty close there. If it's out of plumb, you can normally adjust it with the just adjusting this, but sometimes you have to take a bird's mouth out of here and suck this post in, which we may have to do it on this one because this one's pretty tight. Yes, for sure. You can see it's out of plumb. So what we're gonna have to do here is we're actually gonna have to open up this bird mouth. We'll probably open up this one here just because it's out by itself. So we're gonna open up this top bird mouth to suck this in plumb. Once we get to this point, we're gonna put in all the other screws first. But the only reason I'm bringing this up is you kind of want to have an idea now what the gates need to do. That way you can play with the other panels. Like say the other panels need to go out farther, you can bring them out at each 1/8 of an inch and pick up that slack that way. But so the first, we're going to do our corner post first, and then I'll show you how to do a couple line posts. So usually what I do is go like 3 or 4 sections at a time. I'll do all the tops. So like I said, we're going to pull the top in tight, run a tapper in, pull the top in tight. We'll do the same thing on the other side. We're going to push the top this way. This one's tight. So normally what I would do, just do like, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds at a time. That way you're not constantly getting up and off the ground. But I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how to finish this out just so you know. So now we're looking in here to see where that iPost is. So we have a full iPost here. So we're just gonna self-drill straight in, or pre-drill straight in with an 1/8 inch bit. You'll feel it go through like 2 stages. We can pre-drill this one as well. Throw 2 screws in that. Now on the bottom, you don't have to do anything with pushing or anything because the bottom's locked into the ground. When you do the bottom, you just want to kind of go half power because it's real easy to snap these bottom screws off. So that's a corner. Pretty much they're all the same, but I will show you how to do a line post too, just so you can see it. As I mentioned before, same thing. We're gonna do the top first. You always do the top first. We're gonna grab the rail, push into it. Grab this rail, pull into it. Then the bottom we're gonna pre-drill. Looking where the iPost is. So this one, the iPost is on the edge. So I'm gonna go in on an angle. It's critical to go through the iPost because that's what keeps that post from dropping down on the ground is these screws.
So that's it for this. I'm gonna go ahead and finish all this, and then I'll show you how to do the gate. Okay, so here's how you down a post. You can see this is out of plumb. The top needs to go in. So if the top needed to come out, you can just simply pull it out and put a screw in and hold it plumb. But since we have to go the other way, you need to determine what's holding it out of plumb. Usually it's one of two things. Either these bird mounts are hitting the actual physical post cover, and it could even be the bottom one, or the rail on the bottom is touching the iPost. So the best way to determine that is two ways, and I usually do this on everything. Pull this back and snap it and kind of listen to where the noise is coming from. So I can hear it's coming right here. But the other way is pull this post cover off to check the iPost, pull this clear off, and then set this down in there. Not just set it in there, but set it at grade. You can see you can't tell on the camera, but there's about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of play in there. So we're good as far as the iPost is concerned. You can see there's about 1/4 inch in there. So it's definitely not, the bottom rail is too long. The bird mounts are too short. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up I'm actually gonna open all 3 of these about 1/4 inch. And that'll give us plenty of room to be able to dial this in. So basically all you're doing is just like we put the bird mounts on when we cut the rails, we're going to use our tool and just open that up another 1/4 inch. And you can do this without taking it off without taking the panel off. So just squeeze it. The bottom one is kind of tricky sometimes, but you can still do it. Now they usually won't click when you do this just because it's so small. So we'll open these bird mounts out. That one. I'm going to do the bottom one also. Now this may or may not work. We may have to open it up a little bit more. It's kind of trial and error. So we'll put it all back together. Check the plumbness. So we'll probably be there. I didn't beat it down yet. We're almost level. So once I beat it down to grade, it'll probably go level. The grade does just change this. So it's critical you get it to grade before you check level. If you don't, like I said, your rails could end up too short. Need to get a little more. It's pretty good there. So we're like a little bit more in the middle rail. And how I can tell, it's hard to tell, but this rail is actually twisted. So we need to go a little bit more on the back side of this rail. It's just the middle one there, the top one has plenty of room. The bottom one's got plenty of room as well. So I am going to cut just maybe 1/8 of an inch off this top one, just to be sure. So we're pretty much level now. When we dial it in, we should be able to have a little bit of play. It's pretty good there. Yep, that's perfect. So we'll go ahead and screw this in there. Just like the other ones, nothing special about it. The only thing special about it is if you did have a lot of play, you want to hold the level up there and keep it plumb, but it is plumb, so as long as it's tight. So ideally, you want this one perfectly plumb, and the hinge side, you want the latch side perfectly plumb, and the hinge side tipped back maybe 3 or 4 degrees. That way when you hang the post on there, it's perfectly plumb. And that's what the case is going to be here. So I'm going to move you over here so you can really see. So this side here has plenty of play. You can see how where you can go clear, way past plumb, where it's actually hanging like this. We want it to hang like that just a little bit. So you want to be about halfway between level and touching the line. Which will give you about 1/4 inch of slope. Or not 1/4, 1/8 of an inch per foot of slope. That way when we hang this gate on here, you can see I'm pulling on this. It's perfectly level. Okay, so now we're ready to hang the gate. So I'll go ahead and get that out and show you how to do that. Okay, so we're gonna hang the gate now. The gate comes in these bagged things. So the gate itself comes with hinges as well that's in here. You do have to buy your own latch set. We use the Magna latch.
To do this, you're going to need the gate, the latch, an impact, a number 2 square bit, and then a number 2 Phillips, I believe. And then if you're going to rack the gate, you'll need a ratchet strap as well, which we're going to need that. So first thing is open this up. Just like everything else, be careful you don't cut the aluminum or scratch the aluminum. Your cap should be on there. So when you open this up, when it's brand new, there's 3 things you're looking for. One's damage, obviously. You want to make sure it's not damaged. This one's pretty good here. You want to make sure your caps are on, both sides. See the caps? And then your hinges are behind this. Sometimes the hinges are just wrapped up in a bag in here as well, but usually they're behind this cardboard. So you got to cut these zip ties. And then your hinges, and there's also screws for your hinges in this bag. You'll also need a drill bit with an 1/8 inch, same bit we use for all the other screws as well. It makes it a lot easier. So your screws and this Allen key is in the same bag. So the first thing you want to do when you open these up is back the spring tension on. These are self-closing hinges. So you take this wrench out of here. And I'm just going to put this gate over here because we're done with it for a minute. So as I mentioned before we get into this, as I mentioned, your hinge is always hinged on the downhill side and it swings downhill. So this slope's going like this. So we're going to hinge it on this side and it's going to swing out. So once that's determined, these hinges are going to mount here. Before you mount the hinges, you want to dial the spring tension off. So how you do that is there's an end that has a plus and a minus, and there's an end that has nothing. On the plus and the minus side, you stick your Allen key in, push down, and then just twist this, like normally about three slots. Sometimes you have to wiggle this to come back up. And you want it where it just kind of, if you push it, it'll just kind of rest just a little past 180, or a little before 180 degrees. That's perfect. So we'll do that to both hinges. Like I said, it's normally 3 clicks. See, this one's the same exact way. Then I like to put these plus and minus facing up, just so it's easy for the customer to get to if they need to. So the next thing we're going to do is mount our hinges. So I like to go just line this up to the top of the middle rail and then to the top of the bottom rail. I just think it looks nicer like that. Or I'm sorry, the top of the middle rail and usually about 2 inches above the bottom rail. Thinking of a different fence. So you take 1 screw each now. Just 1 screw, that's all you need. 1 screw per hinge, so you need 2 screws. These are Phillips, no, these are square bit, number 2, I believe. They look like Phillips, but they're actually square. If you use a square, it's a lot easier, so make sure you use a square on these. The lock set uses Phillips head. So for the top hinge, like I said, you want to be at about the rail. You don't have to pre-drill this one. Just drill the center hole, put the screw in. That's good there. Now the bottom one you do want to pre-drill because that iPost is in there. We normally go, like I said, about 2 inches above the bottom rail. This middle one, you kind of got to drill on an angle.
The reason is you're hitting the web of that iPost. So you're gonna have to drill on an angle to get around the web. So now you get out 2 more screws. And if you have help, this is when you definitely would like to have help, but you can hang these by yourselves like I'm about to. So what we're gonna do, this gate is essentially a twin of this panel. So we're gonna try and line up all the rails on the hinge side. Don't worry about the other side. Now, if it hits the ground, you might have to open it up and do that. Now we're gonna see what happens here. I'm gonna move you over here so you can see a little bit better. And there is a little tab, I'll show you. Bring it up here so you can see. There's a little tab there that the gate and the post is touching on. There's a tab on the top and the bottom of the post side, and there's a tab in the middle right here, or the post side, and there's a tab on the top and the bottom for the gate. You want those tight. So I normally do the top first, just because gravity will pull the bottom into place. The tricky part's keeping everything lined up. So I have the other screw just sit on the ground or something for the bottom. And I normally clip this on my belt, but I don't have a clip on this drill, so we'll just set it up here. Maybe. And you can kind of use your toe if you're by yourself to hold this square. Like I said, your goal is to line up these rails. You're just worried about the top one right now. So right there. Not too much. See how it's lined up? Then we'll do the same on the bottom. There's normally enough flex on these where it'll rest on the post and still be able to drill in square for the top. There's enough flex whenever the tension's backed off. I mean, if the tension's wound on, you won't have enough. And just kind of visually look at this. So you can see we need to rack that up, but these rails are lined up perfect. You can just see it, it's nice. So that's what we're after. So we're gonna go ahead and put the other 8 screws on this side, if I can find them. So on the gate side, you don't have to pre-drill the bottom, but on the post side you do. So now we're out from the web so we can get straight in. And I normally do one at a time, so we'll run the top one in first. And the reason was, I don't know if you saw that walk a little bit, that way if it walks like it just did, all your holes will still line up. So the bottom's good. Go ahead and do the top. Like I said, you don't have to drill the top. Okay, so now I'm gonna pull on this and you'll see how much slop's in these hinges because there's no tension on them. So we need to get that out. So we're gonna dial these hinges back up now. So we'll go back up, normally 2 clicks each. You gotta really wiggle these usually now to get these to come up. So you gotta push down, twist it, and you have to get that thing back up. There we go. So you can see how it took a lot of slop out. So now what we need to do is we're gonna have to rack this gate. So this is a mechanical thing. We're gonna use a ratchet strap. This end needs to go up, which means we have to pull that end up and push down on this end. So we're gonna take this cap off. And I normally just use a battery. You wanna use something soft. It'll come right off of there. And then you need your ratchet strap. So I normally put the hook on the bottom just because it's easier to run this thing standing up. You want a good ratchet strap. This one here don't look too good, especially the ratchet end. So we're gonna hook this down here. Then we'll hook this up here. And I'm gonna just start this and I'll move you over so you can watch it. So it's started now. So I'm gonna move you over here. I'm gonna ratchet this and pull up on this till them rails are lined up, but we have to go about 2 inches past where we wanna go. So we're gonna actually take this to about the top of the post and try that. About right there. Then I normally take my foot and kind of square this up because it knocks it out of square. About like that. Then we'll back it off and see what that looks like. And that is perfect. Maybe a little more. Let me step back and look at it. No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. So that's how you rack a gate. Like I said, you can only go about 2 inches. If you start cranking on this ratchet and you can hear this thing popping and cracking, that's actually these welds breaking. You should never go that far. If you hear 1 or 2 pops, it's not a big deal, but if you hear a bunch of pops, that gate's probably junk. So this is done now. So the next thing we're gonna do is put our lock set on. I'm gonna take you inside for this. Normally, the customers like their lock sets on the inside, just so they can access them from the inside, lock them from the inside. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna set it up on the inside. So when you take this out, there should be a key in this. We'll see. There's a bunch of hardware. There's 2 keys. Actually, there's not a key. There's a key in the bag. You'll use every piece in this bag. So we're gonna unlock this. So we can unlock it and take it off. Then we're gonna I normally take this key out right off the bat and then put this on here. That way it's pretty hard to lose with this big tag on it. Then just start it off to the side. We'll go back to the customer. And you need a number 2 Phillips head to do this. One thing I forgot to mention is you got to put your cap back on over here. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Sorry, the battery died there. So we got our number 2 Phillips head and our hardware. So the next thing you need to determine is how this thing is going to close, and this is very important. So we need this gate to close into something, and we want the latch on the inside. Now we could have this on the outside and latch into the lock set like this, but that would put the latch on the outside. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna mount this on the post and then have this mounted on the gate, and the latch itself will latch into the striker. So we don't do nothing with the striker yet though. That was just to show you, to illustrate how the swing would work. So we're putting the the latch on the post. So the next thing we need to do, knowing that, is these plastic adapters go on here and then this slides down on it. So we're gonna go ahead and put these plastic adapters on. And you can see these are adjustable. So we generally want to leave about an inch up here, and then we want this pretty much in the center. If we leave this in the center, then this thing can adjust anywhere down the road. So we're gonna put this here, and then I normally have this pretty much even with the bottom of the pyramid on the cap. And I'm gonna move you over here. It's a little bit easier to see. We'll need 2 screws out of this bag. Now there's 1 silver screw in here that gets used dead last. All the other ones are the same except for that silver screw. So we're gonna grab 2 screws out of here. And I do the top one first. Like I said, we're lining up this is the pyramid. We want this down about an inch gap in here. We just run a screw in there. Now this just dropped, so we're gonna have to pick up on this. Okay, so this dropped down, but the top one's attached. So we need to pick this back up before we attach the middle one, and then just double check that this is still lined up down here. So we're gonna line this up with this pyramid. We'll put this screw in on the side. Just like that. Now this is on there, not real good, but it's on there. The next thing we have to do is actually take this thing off. So we're gonna take this off. The reason is there's 4 screws behind this that needs attached, but you can't put them on until you get this figured out where these need to go. So we're gonna use 4 screws here. I'm just going there. There's a little pocket, you'll see them. And now we got to put this thing back on. And it is kind of tricky now because this is pushing against this cap, but you can do it. You want to, if you're going to hit it like that, you got to pull up on the fence at the same time, or the gate, or you'll bend the gate back down. So we're lined up there. The next step is line this back up at the bottom. And then now we're going to put this on. Now it probably won't latch, but what we're after is we want to line up on the side over here. On the side over here, there's 2 areas. I'm just going to set you up right here. So there's an arrow here and then there's a line here. We want to get very close to that. Now we can still pick this up and down to get it perfect. But generally it's about a 1/4 inch gap between the bottom of this and this. We'll line you up perfect. We'll throw in 4 screws there. You can feel how this is, or hear how this is drilling very hard. The reason is we're hitting the iPost in there. If you feel not confident enough not to break these, then you can pre-drum with the 1/8 inch bit. And there are also 2 bits here. 2 hole screws, I mean. So effectively the lock's on there, but we have to adjust it now to get it to close right. So you want to grab a screwdriver. I forgot to grab one of them, so I'm gonna go grab one of those. And I'll show you how to adjust this. Okay, so you can see how this has to come out there's also a line here and a line here. The goal is to line them up. Now to adjust this, there's a little stainless screw in here. You should use a screwdriver, don't use a drill. You just screw it to dial this thing out. Pretty close there. Let's see what it looks like. And that is pretty much perfect. We need to come out like a quarter of a turn probably. That's good there. So now, pretty much dialed in. You can see we're hair low here, so we're going to pick this whole thing up. This. A little high. It's pretty good there. So that's lined up, and then these are lined up. So the last thing to do is we need to take that little silver screw. And if you look in here, there's 3 holes. One of those holes should have a hole accessible, but if not, just kind of stick this into plastic and make your own hole, which is actually what I had to do there. And what that does is locks this in so it can't raise and lower now. So the lock is effectively done now and adjusted. There's one last step, if I can find it. Here it is. So the last step is we need to put this cover on. This cover just goes on here. So there's hooks on here. So this kind of sits on here like this, and then just push this in. And it's clicked in there, and that's all there is to it. Make sure you don't put that on until you're 100% done, because if you do have to take this off, generally this thing breaks. So make sure everything's adjusted and shuts good, and you're good to go. So I mentioned about the cap. I forgot to put the cap on. And this kind of ties in with the last step anyways. So the last step of the fence is, and I can show you both on the same one, is to go around and put the caps on. Second to last step, I guess. So the gate takes this little cap. It's like 1.5 inches probably, maybe 1.25 inches. So you just put these on here, and then you can take a rubber mallet with your hand, just knock them down, you hear them click. The gate's the same way. It takes the bigger caps. It comes with the screws. You just go around the whole fence line and put these on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the last step, which is wiping down the fence, and then we're going to use some touch-up paint to touch everything up. So the last step is you want to walk around and pick up all the trash and take these clips off. If you do have a laborer on site, usually they take the clips off before you put these up, but we didn't have a laborer on site. If you're working by yourself, just carry a bucket or something. They just pull right off. You want to be looking for dirt and stuff and just wipe the fence down. And if there's any scratches, we'll actually hit it with touch-up paint. So I'm gonna go grab the touch-up paint. So this is our touch-up paint. I already shook it up, but when you open these, for whatever reason, they don't attach the thing to the can. So just be aware of that or you'll lose it. So we wanna wipe down the fence, and then anywhere where we cut at, we wanna just hit it real quick. Just seals it off. Inside and outside. We'll go outside and do the same thing. I normally do this all while we're cleaning up the trash. So we're inspecting, picking up trash, and looking for scratches. So that's everything. The only thing else left to do, and I don't have any with me, is put our fence sign on. We have 2 different signs. One attaches to the rail, or one we have a sticker that goes on the post itself, but we're actually out of them at this moment. But other than that, this fence is completely done.
If you guys found this video informative, be sure to hit that like button. And if you have any questions, drop it down in the comments section. I'd be glad to help you out. And as always, if you're looking for a fence in the Pittsburgh region, be sure to give us a call here at Annabella Fence. Our phone number is 724-201-7837. I generally can get you an estimate over the phone without even have to come in. I just use an aerial footage and asking a couple questions. Till next time, you guys stay safe out there.